Good evening. It's Wednesday, March 4th. Thanks for joining us tonight. I'm Maya Trabulsi. Much of our show tonight will be dedicated to election results. We'll be focusing on some of the more high-profile races tonight, but we'll have results showing for all the races at the bottom of your screen. We start with the race for San Diego mayor. The top two advanced to the general election. Assemblyman Todd Gloria was the clear first choice with 40% of the vote. Second place is tight. Scott Sherman is ahead of fellow council member Barbara Bree by less than 2 percentage points. KPBS Metro reporter Andrew Bowen begins our coverage.
Todd Gloria got a raucous welcome at a reception hosted by the County Democratic Party Tuesday night. His first place finish was not a big surprise. Gloria consistently led the pack in fundraising and endorsements. Speaking to the media Wednesday morning, he said he's running a positive campaign and that voters have rewarded that.
They like the fact that I have a vision for where I'd like to take our city. I don't foresee deviating from that. I think this should be a discussion of the ideas and the solutions that we have to the big problems facing this city. That will continue to be our strategy going forward, regardless of who our opponent is.
Gloria's likeliest opponent in November is City Councilman Scott Sherman, a Republican who entered the mayor's race nearly a year after Gloria and City Councilwoman Barbara Bree, the other main competitor. Sherman said Wednesday if he does make the runoff, he too hopes for a positive campaign.
Hopefully this will be about issues and about a vision for how we govern San Diego. Is it, bold visions for the country and the city, or is it running nuts and bolts operation of city government?
Sherman's focus is on the latter. He says he's about common sense, nonpartisan leadership. Bree vastly outspent Sherman, but is trailing him by about 3,000 votes. That still could change, however, with tens of thousands of mail and provisional ballots left to count in the coming weeks. Andrew Bowen, KPBS News.
Now to another big issue for the future of San Diego. Measure C. That's the measure that would raise hotel taxes to fund a convention center expansion, homeless services, and road repairs. It's falling just short of the required 2/3 majority needed for passage. Just over 63% voted yes. KPBS reporter Matt Hoffman is live downtown with more on what this means for the convention center. He also has an update on some of the other major ballot measures. Matt.
Maya, for years, San Diego has been trying to expand this downtown convention center, trying and failing, I should say, and this latest attempt appears to be no different. Now, all this, though, has been extremely frustrating for organizers of the largest event here at the convention center.
It's no secret that we have outgrown the convention center space. And there are continuing concerns. I mean, space or limited space is at the forefront.
Comic-Con sees more than 60,000 hotel stays with an estimated $150 million regional impact.
It's important that we keep premier marquee events like Comic-Con in San Diego. Those folks are very clear. They need to see the convention center expanded if they want to stay here long term.
State Assemblyman and leading candidate for Mayor Todd Gloria still supports expanding the convention center.
The outcome of Measure C is personally disappointing.
Gloria says combining an expansion with something other than money for homeless services and road repairs might work.
If it's not this particular formula or combination of priorities, maybe there's another set that San Diegans can support.
But San Diego City Councilman and mayoral candidate Scott Sherman says enough is enough.
We've tried the hotel tax, like 3 times now, and it doesn't seem to be working. So I think it's time that we look at other options.
Sherman also does want to see an expansion of the convention center.
We've already lost 7 conventions because there's not enough space. Comic-Con's an issue.
He wants to look into partnering with a private developer instead of trying to get a 2/3 majority from voters.
Because it's just tough to get past that threshold.
Current San Diego Mayor Kevin Faulconer has been the frontman for Measure C and similar convention center expansion pushes in the past.
Kevin Faulconer has a problem in terms of legacy. He didn't get the convention center through.
San Diego Mesa College political science professor Carl Luna says including money to address homelessness might have been the measure's downfall.
I think that may have backfired to a degree, that some did see that as a transparent ploy to try to get support, where you're giving a little bit to homeless and a lot to the convention center.
Last night we spoke to Mayor Faulconer as early returns showed the measure trailing.
It is very tough to get 2/3 of folks to agree on anything. But we pushed very, very hard because I think San Diegans understood how important these issues were.
Yeah, coming back out here live. While returns are still coming in, it looks like Measure C won't get the 2/3 majority needed to pass. San Diego Mayor Kevin Faulconer, though, today did issue a statement basically saying, hey, look, there's still a lot of votes out there. He doesn't want to make any big decision until he sees the final vote count on this measure. It needs to get to 66%. Right now, hovering around 63%. You hear some trucks.
Thanks, Matt. And the dust is settling from Super Tuesday in the race for the White House. Among the Democrats, Joe Biden has surged ahead in the delegate count, but California went for Bernie Sanders. The Vermont senator won the biggest prize of the night, winning the Golden State by nearly 9 points. But the former vice president won 10 of the 14 states up for grabs after a string of major endorsements in recent days. The latest of those endorsements is coming from Michael Bloomberg. The former New York mayor threw in the towel this morning. He had disappointing results on Super Tuesday, including a third-place finish in California. He says he will back Joe Biden moving forward. Bloomberg gained a lot of attention for spending $500 million, mostly on ads, to launch his candidacy. And Massachusetts Senator Elizabeth Warren is evaluating the state of her campaign tonight. She struggled to break through on Super Tuesday, even in her own state. John Lawrence recaps election night for the Democrats.
Joe Biden scores big on Super Tuesday.
So I'm here to report we are very much alive.
The former vice president is projected to win the most Super Tuesday states, including Texas, and says he'll strive to bring bipartisanship back to Washington.
We can't have a never-ending war between the parties. We need a president who can fight, but make no mistake about I can fight. But look, we need as badly, someone who can heal.
Senator Bernie Sanders also collected a healthy amount of delegates Tuesday and says he's not backing down to Biden.
I tell you with absolute confidence, we are going to win the Democratic nomination.
Or anyone else.
And we are going to defeat the most dangerous president in the history of this country.
Senator Elizabeth Warren's campaign is struggling. She even lost her home state of Massachusetts to Biden.
Cast a vote from your heart and vote for the person you think will make the best president of the United States of America.
Former New York City Mayor Mike Bloomberg doesn't leave Super Tuesday empty-handed. He won American Samoa.
In just 3 months, we've gone from 1% of the polls to being a contender for the Democratic nomination for president.
I'm John Lawrence reporting.
All of San Diego's congressional seats were on the ballot. The race drawing the most interest is in East County's 50th district. Democrat Amar Campa-Najjar is moving on to the general election. He'll likely face former Republican Congressman Darrell Issa in November. He edged out former San Diego City Council member Carl DeMaio. KPBS reporter Priya Sridhar has more.
It was an action-packed night at both the Democrat and Republican watch parties downtown. The nail-biter of the night, the 50th Congressional District, where for the first time in 40 years, someone not named Duncan Hunter will be representing the district. So far, results show Democrat Amar Campa-Najjar in the lead with 34% of the vote, followed by former Republican Congressman Darrell Issa with 25%.
So Republicans, Democrats, and independents are part of this campaign. They're the reason we did so well. It wasn't just the Democrats, it was independents and Republicans as well. And this race is not about the left versus the right. It's about the old and the new.
But as one of the last Republican strongholds in Southern California, the party isn't worried about a Democrat winning in November.
The 50th, President Trump won that by 19 points in 2016. So there doesn't exist a voter in the 50th district who's going to pull the lever for President Trump and then pull the lever for the Democrat for Congress.
Over in the 49th district, Democrat incumbent candidate Mike Levin narrowly defeated Republican candidate Brian Marriott 52 to 47%. Both men will be moving on to the general. The seat flipped from Republican to Democrat in 2018, and the chair of the San Diego County Democrats say it's a race they'll have to prioritize come November.
It means that we're going to have to put in some work. I mean, the seat is going to, first of all, when we get into the the presidential election, we have a turnout boost, which means that we're going to have the numbers to carry Mike Levin over. But it also means that we're going to have to fight and not take it for granted.
And finally, the 53rd district. Democrats Sarah Jacobs and Georgette Gomez were the top two vote getters. Jacobs with 29% of the vote and Gomez with 18%.
We're feeling amazingly optimistic to have seen the results come in and be in second place. It's exactly what we were expecting, and it looks like we were able to deliver a strong message to the voters.
Both parties say they expect to see an even higher turnout in November because of the presidential election. Priya Sridhar, KPBS News.
Voters in San Diego County and across California were asked to approve bond measures to renovate and upgrade outdated schools. Of the three, not one has reached the threshold needed to secure funding. Poway's Measure P asked voters to approve a $448 million bond to help the Poway Unified School District rebuild its facilities. The measure needs 55% approval to pass, and as it stands, the yes votes are at 47%. And in Chula Vista, Measure M is closer but still falling short. The bond measure would build housing for teachers, renovate schools, and improve security. Measure M also needs 55% approval to pass. Right now, it only has about 52% of the vote. And then Prop 13, a $15 billion state school bond, appears headed for defeat. It called for repairing and modernizing aging K-12 and college campuses. Prop 13 was the only statewide ballot measure needed a simple majority to pass, and right now the no votes are leading with 55%. There was so much more on the ballot, and we have all of it covered for you on kpbs.org. Right now on our homepage, you'll find a link to results that are updated as they come in. So you'll also find our extensive reporting on all of the candidates and the issues. You just go to kpbs.org for more Super Tuesday coverage. Governor Gavin Newsom just declared a statewide emergency due to the coronavirus. It comes hours after the state reported its first death, an elderly person who lived in Auburn, a city near Sacramento. The person reportedly contracted the virus while on a cruise. And in LA County, it's a case of caution, not panic, as officials there today declared a state of emergency. The move comes as 6 new cases were revealed there just in the past 48 hours.
At this moment, we do not have community transmission. We do not have an increased number of cases and an increased number of contacts that we believe are going to come down with this disease.
Department on your declaration.
The declaration allows greater coordination among the various governments. As for the 6 confirmed cases, some either traveled to an exposed area or were in close contact with someone who did. LA officials say they will be increasing testing and to expect more cases. The growing coronavirus impact in the U.S. is causing fear and confusion. San Diego County officials tapped its 211 call center to answer the public's questions about the disease. But KPBS health reporter Taryn Mento says calls are barely trickling in.
How do I know if I'm at risk? What should I do if I think I've been exposed to a virus?
Adrian Karstens says that's what a handful of callers asked 211 operators about novel coronavirus. The nonprofit resource line received only 10 inquiries about the disease since last month. Supervisor Karstens says that's probably because the info is regularly updated on the county's website. But 211 is ready for concerned callers who may still want to hear a reassuring voice over the phone.
We would want to stay calm, and we would want to stay and let them know that we have information that's approved and verified by our leadership.
211 regularly provides information and enrollment support for public services like CalFresh, but it's also activated during emergencies like fires to provide urgent updates and keep 911 open for dire situations. Karstens remembers during the 2017 Lilac fire, a call from an elderly and disabled San Diegan who was in an evacuation zone.
And so we were able to get them pointed towards the right source of emergency assistance and they were able to get to safety.
A surge of calls is expected during immediate threats like this. Even the hepatitis A crisis generated 700 calls during the first month 211 began tracking them. But Crisis Communications Director Ray Cheney says so far that hasn't been the case with coronavirus. Still, he's staying up on every development.
We do a lot of monitoring around here, whether it's on social media or I'm listening to radios. So any typical day I'll have a scanner on.
But going back to the questions 211 has received on coronavirus, people who think they may be infected are urged to contact their doctor. Karsten says 211 will help callers find a provider if they don't have one. Taryn Mento, KPBS News.
Today, Amnesty International announced it's canceling a convention in San Diego this weekend due to concerns about the coronavirus. It follows a trend of companies deciding to limit events with large gatherings of people. The economic effects of coronavirus on global travel and business have caused major volatility in the stock market. Today, we saw another big swing. The Dow gained more than 1,100 points. Analysts say a mix of coronavirus news and Super Tuesday results are reasons for the surge. And we'll have more on the coronavirus impact on the economy later in the show. The travel industry is taking a major hit as well. From airlines to hotels to cruise ships, business and stock prices are down. A bit later on, we'll have a closer look at the damage done so far. The search for missing people continues in Tennessee after the state's deadliest tornado in years. At least 24 people have been killed. Hundreds of homes and businesses were reduced to rubble. Camila Bernal has the latest.
Tennessee remains under a state of emergency.
I thought for sure that it was just going to take the whole house up.
This after the deadliest day of tornadoes in 7 years.
I've never been more terrified in my life.
As the storms have passed, the recovery efforts are now getting underway.
Now we're in the transition from yesterday's emergency to recovery. The next phase will be rebuilding.
Officials are working to get an accurate picture of the lives lost and the damage done.
In terms of infrastructure, this has been the most devastating storm of my career.
The storms have left tens of thousands of residents in the dark, and emergency utility crews are now working around the clock to restore the power.
Our field resources will be working 14-hour days, 14 hours on, 14 hours off, 24/7, until we get power restored to all that can accept power.
Tornadoes swept across the region, but an initial survey of the damage indicates at least one tornado in the East Nashville area was an EF3. Yet despite the tragedy, an outpouring of support raising spirits.
Oh, what a city. I mean, I've never been so inspired in the areas of greatest devastation. People's attitude was the strongest.
Camila Bernal, KPBS News.
The first major abortion case is now before newly appointed Supreme Court Justices Neil Gorsuch and Brett Kavanaugh, and demonstrators are making their voices heard.
This is what democracy looks like.
The case is from Louisiana, and it centers around a law that requires doctors performing abortions to obtain admitting privileges from a nearby hospital. The case is not a direct challenge to Roe v. Wade, the landmark case that legalized abortion, but it could be the first in a number of opportunities to chip away at abortion rights. A hopeful and honest update from the host of Jeopardy! Alex Trebek is sharing a message to his fans and his supporters.
The one-year survival rate for stage 4 pancreatic cancer patients is 18%. I'm very happy to report I have just reached that marker. Now, I'd be lying if I said the journey had been an easy one. There were some good days, but a lot of not so good days. I joked with friends that the cancer won't kill me, the chemo treatments will. There were moments of great pain, days when certain bodily functions no longer functioned, and sudden massive attacks of Great Depression that made me wonder if it really was worth fighting on. But I brushed that aside quickly because that would have been a massive betrayal.
And Trebek ended his update urging people to keep a positive attitude. He says he'll keep everyone updated on his progress.
I'm Judy Woodruff. Tonight on the NewsHour, Joe Biden redraws the lines of the Democratic primary field. We examine who's up and who's out after Super Tuesday. Coming up at 7 after Evening Edition on KPBS.
Some of the world's top minds in earthquake science are in San Diego this week. The National Earthquake Conference is being held downtown. It happens every 4 years and features hundreds of experts in academics, public policy, and emergency response. The goal of the event is to share information and technology that will help protect communities. The event runs through Friday. We're keeping an eye on a chance of rain this weekend, but tomorrow looks to be another sunny and warm day. Daji Aswad has our forecast.
We had a pretty mild Wednesday here across San Diego County. Tonight, we're cooling down into the mid-50s for San Diego. Noticing clouds out there, 46 in Oceanside, and overnight low in Borrego Springs at 53. Mount Laguna in the lower 40s. Making a move into your Thursday, that warm flow will continue. That means sunshine and temperatures above normal for most locations. High pressure back towards our north and east. Sunshine in Oceanside with some clouds at times. Looking at a decent amount of sunshine and warm air in Borrego Springs with a high of 83. 60 in Mount Laguna and 72 in San Diego for Thursday. Then come Friday, we're still dry and warm. High pressure begins to depart, and that's going to allow for our next frontal system to approach California. We won't see any immediate rain from the system for Friday or Friday night, but there could be the chances for some showers as we head into Saturday. But overall, this weekend, moisture will be limited back towards our north as for now in our forecast. So here is a look at the breakdown. 73 for your high tomorrow at the coast. Looking at sun and clouds, looking at low clouds building in Friday ahead of our cold front, and then a better chance for some showers at the coast Saturday with a high in the mid 60s, upper 60s Sunday, and then into the lower 70s Monday with partly sunny skies. Inland areas, you're also going to see that temperature cool down, and you'll be going from the 80s into the 60s in a 3-day span. So definitely going to be a shock to the system for some, but for some of this, that's going to feel a lot more comfortable than temperatures in the 80s. 60 for Thursday here in the mountains, 56 Friday, and that cool down comes Saturday with our front really settling in with that colder air. Chilly here Sunday as well, and Monday temperatures trying to moderate a tad bit more. Deserts see that cool down as well. Thursday, Friday in the 80s and into the 70s for your weekend forecast. Reporting for KPBS News, I'm your meteorologist, Daji Aswad. Back to you.
At the White House, President Trump met with airline CEOs to discuss how the industry is dealing with the coronavirus. Today, United Airlines announced it would cut its schedule by 10% in April. Travel and tourism is down sharply around the world. Richard Quest shows us how it goes well beyond airlines.
The travel industry has faced many shocks of different types before, but this is something different.
The last time we've seen anything close to this was post 9/11.
It's the range and scale of industry that's truly worrying. Think about it. It's more than just planes and trains. It's the hotels where we stay, the restaurants we dine at, the credit cards we use for expenses. Giant companies like Nestle and Unilever and AT&T, parent company of this network, have restricted almost all business travel. And massive trade shows like Mobile World Congress have been cancelled, along with even travel trade shows such as ITB. It's creating a cascading threat to the travel industry and the millions of people who depend on it.
If there's nobody traveling on planes, there's nobody staying in hotels. If no one's staying in hotels, no one's going to restaurants, no one's using taxi cabs, Ubers, chauffeured cars, or anything else. Everything kind of stops, and that's the problem.
This is what the impact of coronavirus looks like on Chinese airspace. Busy routes disappeared altogether at the height of the outbreak as travelers stayed home. Now, major European and transatlantic routes are also being cancelled because of falling demand. All told, IATA says it will cost airlines more than $29 billion this year.
It is not good. I'm talking to people who say that this is the worst crisis for airlines since at least 2008 and maybe post 9/11. People right now don't want to travel.
The cruise industry has been particularly hard hit. Last month, thousands of people were confined on board 2 cruise ships amid fears of spreading the virus. Coronavirus was detected on only one of the ships. There are fresh restrictions as companies deny boarding to passengers deemed at risk. Cruise line share prices have tumbled heavily. And some countries are turning ships away from ports that rely on the constant flow of tourists. So look at the effects on some of the major players across 3 areas. Cruise lines, Carnival, straight the way down. United Airlines, with all those Asian routes out of the West Coast, also a big faller. And the largest hotel group in the world, Marriott, have seen some very serious falls, down some 21%.
This is a new twist. It's the black swan that landed on your lawn. Nobody ever wants the black swan showing up, but we had one show up. But you know, the world is resilient. Humans are resilient. There's always a solution. It's just a matter of how much time is it going to take to find the solution that's necessary.
The travel and tourism industry is huge. It's estimated 10% of the global workforce is in some way connected to travel and tourism. So with all its vulnerabilities, the industry is worried but well practiced at dealing with crises. Richard Quest, CNN, New York.
Now here's a recap of some of the top local election results. In the race for San Diego mayor, it appears Todd Gloria will go up against Scott Sherman in November. Gloria came in first last night. The latest results show Sherman in second place by less than 2 points over Barbara Bree. Measure C appears to be coming up short. 2/3 is needed for approval, but the latest results have it around 64%. If that holds, there will not be a hotel tax increase to fund a convention center expansion, homeless services, and road repairs. And then in South Bay, Measure M is unlikely to pass. That's a bond measure for schools in Chula Vista. It's falling short of the 55% threshold. Other school bond measures, Measure P in Poway and the statewide Prop 13, are also trailing. You can find tonight's stories and more election results on our website, kpbs.org/evening edition. Thanks for joining us tonight. Have a great evening.